Okay. I'm Undersampled Radio here. Why am I not seeing creative? Here we go. Okay, so that on that. Yes. Let me go get my adapter. Okay. Stick and tickly. Okay.
I know you have this morbid curiosity. You want to type it in.
I really do.
But you want to go through an onion router and
Yeah.
Like if there's
private
3 or 4
browsing.
people standing here, is this
All right, so if I do this,
like am I in front of the
I
screen?
want you to share my view.
For some, yes. But should we slide everything that way?
Why have you got the laptops pointing at the ceiling?
It's easier to type when you're standing up.
Yeah. Maybe the table.
Let's
do it now before we get too hardwired in.
Yeah.
Gents?
So like,
Yes.
we're gonna slide this a little bit because it's way
Like
too
I'm kind of presenting
center.
right in front of the screen.
Okay.
So let's slide 3 feet that way.
Okay.
And try not to
Sorry about the chair. And then let's move that.
You're good. You're good. Okay. So you
There.
mind a health and
Hold on,
safety
I'm going to
message?
lift this to get the carpet back down.
Oh. Okay, and then.
I think that's very cool.
like it'd be nice if we had a power bar there, then the system that should be faster.
Yeah,
We can
we
make
can
that happen.
That's funny.
All right, let me set up the video.
I think this could just sort of stay.
Look, you're live to YouTube. Okay.
She told me that before I started picking the notes.
Oh, like
Or is it just a glowing image of your head?
okay, so just a second.
Can we test it? Yes, of course. You will want a cable. HDMI. That's okay. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Which microphone? This microphone. Okay, I'm talking into the microphone. Can you hear me?
So can I hear myself now? Oh wait, I gotta get this away. We're gonna get bad feedback.
In 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, how can you get feedback if there's a 30-second delay?
Oh yeah, you won't actually.
The thing about feedback loops.
So can I hear myself now? Yeah, sweet. Okay. We are on. What are you saying about live stream? This is gonna be. You know what? Really? What do you guys want to judge on the leather coach?
Well,
Yeah, I get around.
sure. Big enough that we're not going to be covering, so that's fine.
Let's move this back. Oh shit. You guys.
Hey, Evan and Diego, I gotta go.
Hey, thanks so much for the weekend. Well, nice to see you. And you're traveling around now. Oh, I thought you were just taking it easy. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Are you guys saying decent, sir?
I am good.
Catch you later, Brent.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, that's. This is very good. Like I'm practicing, so. Yeah, we need something. That won't work for you? We can put a little piece of cardboard on top. Yes, perfect. How about a Google AI? Any last? Or like, what about? If you guys are good. Okay, we get the Dell guy in here. He just takes it and calls it. I need to do it. Two bags of ice and let it go. All right, folks.
Projector, that's my laptop.
We can plug the sensor projector.
Oh, right, so can you do this? You're not going to see the other way around. Plug that into the floor. Oh no, you need.
Yes, we can. So that's fine.
Yes, that will work.
Yep.
Is it on? Yes.
Okay, this, I want to take Barbara's. Okay. Hey, easy. This. I've read through various. Oh, look at this. You're going to have 80 starts here. Oh, no, it's good. I don't want to fall over. This? Yes. All right, where's that song? So good, huh? Live stream and live YouTube. Yeah. So this is. But it feels like it's actually. Which one's yours? That doesn't help.
Put this. Put that in
It's like a carrot over there.
So then it's like, and pull biggest
Can I plug my laptop into that power bar? Yes, I can.
I don't know.
This is what a zoom. Love it.
So I've got a screenshot of the word cloud from the last hackathon, and what I can say is so far it's looking very different.
What was the? Oh, I'll wait to hear it. So.
Okay, watch out. I need to record some audio assets for the Undersampled Radio episode.
You know what? Let's move the banners here.
Okay. Just hush up for 30 seconds. Ready? Hello, dearies. Welcome to Undersampled Radio, episode 79. Today, we have a very special episode for you. As you can hear from the background din, we are live and direct at GeoHack Subhack 2018, Salt Lake City, baby. Whoop, whoop. We're here standing front and center, live on stage, waiting for presentations to begin of all of the machine learning in geoscience demos. We'll be starting shortly, so if you're tuned in on the live stream, please hang out for about 15 minutes. And if you're on the podcast, we're going straight to the action in 3, 2, 1.
Where's the HDMI for?
Do you want to test it?
Well, everybody's ready to go. We're at schedule. We're ready to. Hey, Fraser. Let's go. Okay. There's a I hear you. That's a webcam. That's live. Hey, Graham. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Glad to have you here. Thanks for. I was joking. Yes. Hashtag meta. Hashtag meta.
Evan, how does the Wheel of Fortune work?
I can plug in.
I was just wondering if I can run it on my laptop easily.
Yeah. The only thing is I can send it to I can just paste some of this. So it's class2s.net. There's a full screen. Yeah, I will give it. That's perfect, and then you can try that file. Put on get out of the full screen. It's a full screen mode first.
But you want to remove the unconformist, you don't?
Oh, here. I'm just zoomed in on the top. So it's edit. I just give you this, and you can make this.
Oh, cool. So what's the website? Class2s.
Class2s.net, and then that will make it, and then you have to delete, right? You can just keep editing that. I can help you with that. That's cool. And what I'll do is run the timer for them.
So the random name picker? Yeah, we do need somebody to...
I'll do the timer. And be like that. And down on the wall. The only knobby thing. The only big knob. All the way down. Thank you.
The timer's on the spinning wheel of death.
I've got the timer here, which they can see, and will make noise.
Yeah, it's teenage.
Did you guys didn't make a project page? Oh, that's why you're not on.
Oh. Okay, so look.
So can you do that? Just
Use
so I
the
can
microphone
don't
to
forget.
speak. We need to have it, relatively close to that microphone so everybody in
Like after you
can hear it.
sign in.
So shall
give
we
yourself a
move the
name.
mic stand
The
over?
Tigers? Put them right next to each other. Oh wait.
Actually, we could just duct tape this mic to that mic. Oh, yeah.
Do you know what?
What?
Like this. Reach it.
Yeah.
We'll have it here.
Okay.
Oh, you know what I'm saying.
Picking up what you're shitting out.
We do some interesting. There we go.
All right, I think we can get started.
All right.
How about we?
Yeah.
Let's rock and roll.
All right, hold on. We're almost ready.
No, I'm just saying.
Can you lower that so I can get a better angle?
Yep.
There we go. That's what I'm talking
You can
about.
hold it where you want it. And I'll
Lock
take
it, lock and load.
Lock and load, baby. Should be good.
Ooh. We had a bit of droop.
Mic sag there. Let's try that. Ease it back.
Yeah, I think you might have extended. I've gone too deep.
Hold on. Pick this up.
I know you're trying to do it randomly, but our teammate he has to really
Okay.
Sorry, your team name?
is the unconformities.
Did I
The
spell it
green
wrong?
one,
The unconformist.
like this. I think it's fine. Unconformities.
Hang on.
Conformists. Yeah. So if we can,
Like that?
yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. I forgot to tell you. That is a website URL. Sorry, yeah. So we actually, our group name is the Unconformists.
Yeah, the unconformists. Yeah.
Yes. That's
Just the
sorry.
unconformists. No, but I was asking if we can go early because our teammate he has to leave.
Right.
It's random, babe.
Even I was saying if we can go early just because Soy has to leave. He has to go to the airport.
Yeah. It's random. We don't know. I'm just kidding. Actually, Zane's team, David, asked kind of the same thing.
sync mode.
Yep. Should be good.
So there'll be a new question, and you can judge each of the teams on a variety of different factors. Just so you know, the 5 things that the judges will be thinking about are originality, how much of that was it. Execution. Did you actually do anything, or are you still in the PowerPoint marketing web version? Commercial applications or even social applications of the project. Teamwork, how well you work together as a team, and the quality of your awesome presentations. We will be strict on timings. When we first did this a few years ago, we allowed people to freestyle their presentations, and we realized at 1 o'clock in the morning, when we still had 7 teams to go, that was perhaps a mistake. Now, there are a couple of teams that need to head off early. Now, we will be selecting the names at random, but there are 2 teams that need to make it to the airport. So we're going to put those in the random name picker first. I'm going to spin the wheel. And the first team to be presenting will be the Unconformists. So, guys, if you can come along and plug in. Now, guys, you'll have 4 minutes to do your presentation. I just need 1 second. I'm going to put up the question slide, not that one. Okay, so you can see everyone should have a new question now. At the end of the presentation, submit your answers. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll let you plug in. And there's a timer just here.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, and our goal is to transform the way we think about statistics. And we are going to present you today the release of our first tool, the unconformity detector.
So the first question is unconformity, quietly important. So the underpin or understanding of basins, for example, the pre-SIN and post-drift stratigraphy, they're fundamental to our understanding of prospect evaluation. So they define petroleum traps, they can create migration pathways, and also result in the creation of reservoir. And also, if you get your unconformities wrong, it can be a big problem. So I worked for the regulator in the UK, and last year, we had an exploration well drilled on a prospect where the unconformity had been misinterpreted by 300 meters. So that cost the operator $20 million by drilling the wrong hole. So we are focusing on unconformities, and we're going to present to you the future of stratigraphic interpretation.
To accurately predict unconformity inspired by the fake news industry, we would like to integrate again to solve our business needs. Our workflow involves 4 steps. First is to prepare the data set. We would like to get a ton of data set. We build the Earth model, convert with wavelet to get our synthetic data, seismic. And then the next step, we implement one latest GAN model. It's called image to image, which can convert the seismic image into a labeled image. And then, as you know, in the training part, machine learning is very computational demanding. So we apply our model on the cloud computing. After that, and we get the result, we can apply our domain knowledge to do the result QC.
So let me show you a demo mockup of our tool. So think about this is Petrel, or this could be your open detect session when you have your seismic data. So you can visualize your seismic, and then you say, oh my God, I don't know what this unconformity is all about. I want to have an unbiased model. So I can set my plugin, this is my unconformity detector plugin, and open it. So I will show you some of the results for the test data. So you can drop in your seismic line and say predict. And then you can have the synthetic data, the ground truth, and you can see our prediction. So you can see it's very similar than the ground truth. This is another example with a different type of unconformity, and then you can have a different prediction models. You see that our result is quite close. And then we say, let's try with real seismic. We haven't trained the model with real seismic yet, so this is the first test of using real seismic. So we select the unconformity, and then we say, okay, predict. As you can see, the algorithm is trying, but we have a path forward to actually start training the algorithm with real seismic. And Didi is going to present that.
So for future release, with the aim of being this October, we have already built some tools that our geoscientists can use to, and this tool can help, make tiles and label, which is a prerequisite input to this training model. And then, so, before I come and tell you, oh, we'll offer you the unconformist.ai, offer you 10% of our company in exchange for $10 million, let me just sum up what we did. So in just 1.5 days, we've built this proof of concept, first of a kind, deep neural network architecture that can empower the way geoscientists see the stratigraphy. So let us transform the way you understand your stratigraphy. Thank you.
With data sets, there's always a lot of uncertainty. And so I'm interested to hear if your methodology provides a measure of uncertainty or if you see a path to do that.
Yes. So there's two ways to reduce the uncertainty. And the first one is, so if we have more data set, and then we can reduce the uncertainty. So that's our goal. We want to build our synthetic model to generate a count of the training data set. Then we can reduce uncertainty. Another way is every machine learning algorithm, the outputs, they have the probability model. So then they can give the user a sense is how reliable is the result. Then this is the two way we would like to reduce the uncertainties.
And then you also have like an unbiased opinion. So when you're doing your interpretation of your unconformity, you can run this and say, I have an unbiased opinion for the algorithm in the conformity loop. And you can compare that with your own thinking and your own methods. Yeah?
The tool fundamentally linked to seismic data, integrating multiple.
For the core computational, the technology part we use is called the image-to-image. It's a one-on-one model. So we inspired by the computational visualization industry. So for this technology, we can implement the image and kind of a data set. For us, we borrow this idea and implement on the seismic data. So we a little bit modify the workflow.
But you can think about future when you can integrate your logs to actually help train your algorithm. So when you're looking at the real seismic data, when you create your labels, you can use real uniformities from your log data to help train the algorithm. We haven't got there yet.
Thank you very much.
Minutes ahead of schedule.
Okay, I'm going to spin the wheel that's got one name in it. So while the wheel is spinning, if Outcrops G-Whiz could come up and set up, that'd be great.
Hey, if you guys can speak into the microphone.
Oh, there's a time. You guys just want to press start when you start talking.
Is there HDMI or how do we?
Yes, where is it? Here, it's this guy. Don't pull it too far.
Are you guys ready?
Oh, wait for the.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we pause this a second? I forgot to say to everyone, I'm just going to remind everyone, that's fine. Okay, so 14 people managed to vote for Team 1, but if you can grab your phones, put in your votes for Team 1, that'd be absolutely fantastic. You'll have the next 4 minutes to do that. So put your votes in now, and then when this presentation's finished, I'll flick on to the second team. Thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry, guys.
Okay, so our team name is Outcrop GWiz, and that's because these digital outcrop models in the last couple of years have become very popular. But most of what people do is go, gee whiz, look how cool that is. And so we wanted to try to do something a little more. And so you can see, for example, this is a portion of the model that's about 150 meters of stratigraphy. You can see a nice thick sand unit that's right here. And if we zoom into the other portion of the model, then you can see that that sand unit is actually becoming much thinner over here. So our initial sort of goal was to go all the way across the model and try to characterize the sand content, the net to gross of the little section. We didn't quite get there because these models are very large. But what we ended up doing was subsetting that data, and that's what this is. So this is our team. You can see where we're from, mostly from Colorado School of Mines, DU, and Chevron. And you want to take this one?
Yeah, so essentially the executive summary of what we did was, what we wanted to do is we wanted to evaluate the phase sheet variability along or within digital outcrop models. The reason we wanted to do this is, well, rapid evaluation of phase sheet heterogeneities allows us to derive some quantitative information. And in order to do this, what we did is generated those outcrop models, pulled that into Python, and generated a phase sheet classification based on looking at the weathering profile and the image color variation along the outcrop. And so moving forward, we're going to focus on refining the workflow, comparing outcrops, and then trying to auto-detect phase sheet boundaries.
Okay, so there's two kinds of data when you do these UAV models. One's a point cloud and one's a mesh. And basically we went with point cloud because it's better for this, but you can read this later.
Okay, so like I said, the data for this project is actually coming from drone-derived digital outcrop models. And so these are built using this software called PhotoScan. So this particular model, the one I showed you before, is about an hour of flying time, about 200 photos, and then it takes, basically overnight to process it. And so the nice thing about it is that the photos come in georeferenced, and so so the whole model is georeferenced. So we can just have outputs of meters. And so basically what we did was we subsetted that model. We draw a line along here, like you see, and then we take normal slices out of that model to derive the weathering profiles. Okay, so an example of what that looks like is that black line there. And so, for example, that's basically where ultimately where the data is coming from. So we have X, Y, Z, and at each point we have an RGB value as well.
So in order to do this, we basically will try and speed up here. What we did is we extracted phase sheet blocks from the sands, the heterolithics, and the shales within the image, and then did an RGB to HSV conversion, evaluated the distribution of the HSV values within those different phase sheets, and we're able to essentially do a decision tree to identify the important features. Obviously, what was controlling essentially our phase sheet classification. I guess showing the movie, if we can. No, this one. No. Do you want to show the movie?
So maybe we can take questions as you watch the movie, which is basically scanning back and forth.
So how do you cope with shadows in the images?
Say that again?
How do you cope with shadows?
In this model, there are a lot of shadows, and probably some of the misclassification that you see here is as a result of that. So that's definitely
part of the reason we chose to convert to HSV though is because
Those are a little more separable in terms of perceptual qualities. Like hue should, in theory, be invariant to illumination or something like that. So if something's like brighter or with more shadowed or something, but it's the same color, the hue should be similar. So like on that last slide, you saw the decision tree ensemble decide that hue is like by far the most important of those features, and hopefully that takes care of it a little bit. But if we look at the classification of all the points that we had on the last slide there, you can see that like some of the really dark parts are probably not classified correctly.
So your classification, what scale is it working at? Are you working at pixel by pixel or at multiple pixels on a template?
No, it's individual pixels. It's not taking into account the context at all, and that would be something to kind of expand on this. But the easiest way to do it was just to run all the points through a color classifier, basically.
Thank you.
Yes, if I had a question, it would be totally appropriate. What makes visible light photograph your best? If you had a hyperspectral camera or something like this, do you have any sense of whether this is the data set that's actually going to capture flashes?
You'd probably want both, but the issue is you can get a Datum 3 for $500 brand new, and they get a hyperspectral camera. I think minimum you're like looking at a couple grand without a drone to attach it to. So this is something that your average college or uni group can go and buy on Amazon, and then $20 of gas and $500, and you're off and running.
Yeah, I think including hyperspectral data would be really fascinating. Which, you know, you would be getting a better classification, having both visible and
Right. Thank you very much, guys.
It went to Vimeo, yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the judging is now open for Team 2. You can vote for yourself, by the way. There's no way of actually us controlling this, so we decided that the easiest thing to do would be to say, well, yes, you can vote for yourself. And the next team up will be the Jet Loggers. If you could come up, please.
Did it jump off?
All right, stage is yours. Make sure you speak into the mic and have fun. This is the timer. It's going to make noise. I'll hit it after you when you start talking.
Yes, we're the Jet Loggers, and we decided to have a go at a problem, which turns out to be a really hard problem, classifying stratigraphic units. And we could apply this to do sequence stratigraphy, or lithostratigraphy, or classify reservoir zones. So our input data is a set of wireline logs and formation top picks.
Okay, and we want to try and use NLP-inspired methods. Why? Is because we wanted to try and separate the sequence information from the features. So we set up a two-stage process where we do some logs, we do some feature extraction, some feature engineering, and then we build a symbol encoder. So we change our portions of our well logs into a stream of letters. We then build a custom code book using our data set, and we use that in a forward pass to create a well log sequence at the bottom. We then use a sequence classifier to read in the wells as letter and attempt to classify the formations, with the idea that if the second level stratifier could learn about the sequences rather than having that all in a one-step process. So there's the wells with the formation tops matched. On the right-hand side, you have the ground truth in red. So the red shows the formations. And that's actually a sort of scatter histogram of the dots. So that's not showing you all the sequence information, but there's some nice kicks against the formation tops.
So, of course, we want to see and compare our results with standard techniques. So what we did, we just do some random forest and some shallow MRP to see what they can predict. And for this task, we just use the basic logs, so BP and so on, RD, and also some augmentation on them on a 1 meter window using statistics like mean, median, other deviation. And then we try to predict only using this data. It's a very difficult problem. You have seen before the logs are it's formation. So it's very difficult to get good results. But we have seen a score of 0.61 using the other forest on F1 micro.
Okay, and then, so that was our baseline model that we wanted to have a comparison against. What we used was a simplest possible LSTM network, so to learn sequences. It basically scans down the well, and then once trained, tries to repredict blind wells and predict the next formation. And the results we got out, the best result was on well 874 with a 61% F1 score. But the key thing is to see in the right-hand side that even though the percentage is still high, it's misclassifying lots of formations. In fact, the score is so high because it happens to get the most popular formation, the biggest formation it gets right. So whether we can use NLP for this type of thing is still an open question. We think we can. We think separating sequences into its own process is key. And here we've got a very simple LSTM model, and we've got various things to prove both in the codebook generation and in the sequence classifier. We can build bigger LSTMs, and we're still training one next door. That's it. Thank you.
So what do you gain by doing the symbol encoding as opposed to just going to the raw data? What does that do for you?
It allows us to deal with a great compact sequence, something that the LSTM can produce, so it can process.
Dimensionality reduction, which enables them in normal time to be able to process in an LSTM sequence.
Yeah, because we condense about 40 features into that character, into 128 alphabet, and then that's a 1D input into the LSTM. Otherwise, you would have 40 sequences going in at the same time.
And this alphabet also is reminiscent of facies analysis, where we encode our observations as facies classes. And we could also move on to build a second level of associations with the succession and associations of classes.
Are they analogous to facies? It's like finding up, they have those types of terms?
In this case, they are generated with some clustering techniques, k-means clustering, but the associations we could perhaps try to capture.
Yeah, we've been thinking about that. Like, there's one thing to improve on in the codebook generation is to use maybe a hierarchical classifier, and then you've got potentially individual letters that go into words through formations through to one big class, and then you could potentially draw lines there with larger facies units on contributing to formations. We're interested. And that is like word sentences and stuff in NLP language. So thank you. It's nice. Well,
Can you talk a little bit about how this could be applied?
Yes, it is a really hard problem to solve, as you can see from the results from 2 days. It's actually so hard that this is left to sedimentologists and stratigraphers to do in everyday work. But for these guys, it's a lot of manual work to go and pick sequence tops, sequence stratigraphic peaks in lots of wells. So that's the idea with this method, to make it high enough quality so that we can automate this process, at least partially.
My question would be, do you have any sense of what would happen if you went to a blind well that did not have these?
All these are blind wells we show here. So we trained, we had 52 wells. We used 42 for training, and you see only results from blind. So it's totally blind for us. So the result you see here is totally blind.
but was there another part to your question? You said blind wells that had.
Well, I'm just wondering, is the assumption of the algorithm as applied that every well would have every member of the sequence?
No, it doesn't have to. What the LSTM is trying to learn is that after a certain sequence of characters, there's a change that means you've moved on to a different formation. It's starting to observe a different sequence. And the hope would be, which we haven't proven, that if a certain pattern doesn't exist, then that formation is.
It is a parameter also how the memory that you want to look back in the past, in the algorithm. It is a parameter you have to play, be able to adjust in order to obtain better results. But it isn't this process.
Good question over there.
Yeah, I was just wondering if this is treating as a unidirectional or a bidirectional sequence.
We've only had single LSTM moving forward in time. We looked at encoder-decoder type things where you let one part of it see the whole well before another part then generates the decision. And that might be useful. We also we're quite interested in which direction should we be running it in as well, reverse or forward, but I think until we improve the quality of the result, we're not going to see, we're going to be able to tell that.
Thank you very much. Okay, the judging is open for Team 3 if you want to log into your phones and assign your scores. We will now spin the wheel of fortune again. And the Book Cliffs Bandits.
Okay. Greetings. This is actually a fortuitous pairing. It's complementary. Okay. So Tom and Jesse, we are the Book Cliffs Bandits. We picked our name. We started working some data sets and munching some data in the Book Cliffs, and encountered the common problem that another team is working on today of really not having the perfect ready-to-go data. So then we wandered north slope of Alaska, hearing there was riches in those hills. So we went on our own gold rush caper. I found better data, but still not the perfect data ready to go. I'll show you some of that, and it actually led us to kind of reframe our goals just a little bit. Our overall goal, similar to some other folks, was to sort of pivot off of the great work that's been done in prior hackathons and others of making lithology-based correlations and facies predictions and lithology predictions. Take a step back from that and reapproach the problem looking at the periodicity in the well curves, trying to take a graphic approach and aiming to predictive model that would let you pick tops and bases from a sequence stratigraphic perspective, and then characterize those zones and look for like in adjacent wells.
So as we went through this data set from the North Slope, we quickly realized that although it is an open data set, there's well logs and there's formation tops. The formation tops are spread kind of far and wide across the internet. They're not present in all wells. So that was kind of our first question, is how are we going to classify, these intervals of interest from well to well to well if we don't have consistent data? So what we kind of got into was looking at basically a change point detection using Bayesian statistics. And we kind of identified some areas where the hyperparameters kind of, I think we called it the splitter lumper knob on it. So you could go through and run it through here, and it goes through and splits out every single little change activity log. And then if you turn it up into splitter mode or into lumper mode, it just kind of groups things more by formation style. So a further area that this can be tuned is actually using some form of machine learning or gradient descent or whatever to tune the hyperparameter space and figure out what's optimal for all the different wells in an area. From there, once you have these different intervals kind of picked out using these optimally tuned parameters, you can go through and start building these feature sets for all the different wells. So then you can get it into the kind of classifying from well to well to well based on formations, and ultimately getting kind of to the sequence stratigraphic perspective. And this is just a brief result of kind of how our somewhat hand-tuned hyperparameters ended up. We have pretty consistent picks kind of on this kick across a couple wells, and then broke because we have raw log data that hasn't been basically denoised, as you can see at the top there. So there's a lot of opportunities going forward from kind of what we've started working on. That's it.
So does your model jointly consider multiple wells when it's being?
So at this point, it's just assuming that each well is independent. If you can come in with, a human pick in each well, then that's how you could potentially tune parameters for each individual well. But having some kind of standardization from well to well to well.
Thank you.
How are you measuring the correlation between come up with some pretty precision answers, given uncertainty and evaluation correlation?
So that's a great question. You'd like to validate the results against them? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. So there are some extensive tabularized data reported from the 70s in scanned hard copy form, and so we were spot checking a couple of items. We had a couple of wells that were on cross sections. We kind of skipped past a bit here. We're basically relying on published open file reports from the USGS and having to kind of visually check and measure down in section where some of the tops were, see if this was picking reasonably consistent to those events. And if you, and more specifically, this event, it's a kind of a coarsening upward sequence and has a couple of stringers at the base. You see like in that unit with that, here with those two, and here with those two. or in some of the USGS open file reports, including the one shown. It just, if you go to the GitHub and zoom in a bit, you can see that a little bit better. And future work then aiming towards like correlation across, but more work to do. So we solved kind of the first problem we stumbled across, and now have a nice way to automatically pick tops rather than having to manually transcribe them from ginormous open file report tables, spot check them, and then start thinking about the next steps.
And it's all on GitHub, so have at it, anybody that wants it.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
It's excellent to have the second feed set up on that laptop so we can see that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the judging is open from for Team 4. I will say at this point that I've noticed over previous hackathons that the longer we get into the presentations, the less people are excited about voting. But that does have quite a skewing effect because it means the team members who are giving themselves all fives effect. By the way, if there's anybody who is actually watching this online, you can log into this as well and offer your own perspectives and evaluations. And our next team is a channel runs through it. There you go.
So hello everyone. So our topic is about automatic channel detection in seismic. So the work is inspired by my SCG abstract for the SCG in California. So I'm using the encoder and decoder convolutional neural network, which is called SEPNet in computer vision, to train in a synthetic seismic dataset. So that one is created by James Jennings at DEG in collaboration with Chevron. So we train on that synthetic data set using that kind of model. Basically, we have an encoder and a decoder, and we have a dropout layer to model uncertainty. So after training on that, we will apply with the real data set to pick the channel in seismic. So for the work, during the weekend at Hackathon, we will create more training data set to be suitable with my architecture that's already there. So it will be our job during the Hackathon.
So yeah, once we looked at what Nam and his colleagues had done previously, what we saw was probably needed most was the introduction of more supervised training data based on real data rather than synthetic data. And so that's the area that we concentrated on. And so this is our contribution this weekend was a way to much more easily bring in real data into the machine learning process. And so we've built a notebook, and this is up on the repo for anyone to go and look at it. And we've concentrated on bringing in the most generic types of data into a format that can be quickly introduced to the training session. And so it brings in the inputs and outputs. So based on the most generic types of data, segue data and horizons that have been interpreted this weekend. And then we go through a series of QC steps, and then we plot out an upper layer and a lower layer. And then from that, we extract the geobody. And so there's a time slice of the geobody extraction, a cross-section of the geobody extraction, and then we go through, plot that in 3D for some QC, and then ultimately we output it to the formats, the array formats required for the machine learning process. And so if we go to the movie, and we can watch the movie of so this is the extraction that we've got against the background of the seismic that it was extracted from.
Cool. So as Graham mentioned, this is out on GitHub. Go grab it, go test it out, go put it into your own deep learning networks to see what you can do. You know, obviously this is just a first step. The kind of next phases of work will be really, how do you add multiple layers to it? So if you have several different layers that have channels in them, how do you label them all? Also, how do you add different classifications? If you have, say, a channel that you're more confident in or a channel you're lower confident in, how do you break those out into different classes and then incorporate that into your deep learning framework? And then finally, the thing that we wanted to get to but didn't was just a Flask app. So that way anybody can just load up 2 surfaces and the parameters for their seismic volume and actually get out one of these volumes that they can then use to play around with different machine learning frameworks. So with that, any questions?
So this methodology for detecting objects within seismic, is there any limit to the types of objects it can detect, like very small channels, large sheets?
So I can show you the animation on the test set that I have.
So for the Python notebook that you just saw, it's you know, resolution. So as long as you can create an isopack between two, you have something you can put into a model.
So here is some results we have. So on the left-hand side is the field data, and on the right-hand side is the general probability. So you can see that there are some regions that the channel got very thin there. So the probability map doesn't have good result, but the uncertainty modeled by the dropout layer can show the geologists that in this area, the model has high uncertainty. So we can come and repick that area.
So how do you see this being used in an integrated workflow?
Right. So right now, what we have to do now for this model is we have to generate all this synthetic data, and if that can take some time to build a model. But there's a wealth of interpretation data that is sitting on all kinds of drives that is sitting out there that people can start using. So let's start harvesting that data and turning it into training data. And so whether it be, you know, a algorithm that picks out salt bodies or channels or reefs or something, you can start using this this workflow to start building that basic labeled data. This is a reef. This is not a reef. This is a salt body. This is not. So I imagine it's something that you could actually put out on people's workstations and enable them to start building, you know, what they want to train on. So.
I think my question. Obviously, you're going to train on seismic. It strikes me that depending on the vintage seismic for a particular survey, you get a different result. And it could be, I mean, that could be used in different ways. It could be an iterative process where you actually use your body extraction to go back to the new vintage seismic process. But I'm just curious to how have you thought about how you would test if you've got the right input?
So the input in here I train on the synthetic data, and I apply that directly to the field data. So it basically two kind of different things. And the synthetic is created by human, and the field data has a lot of noise and like fracture or faults in that. So it still performs quite well. So I think that the generalization will be a problem we come from the neural network sometimes. But in my case, if we have enough data, it will not be a problem.
Thank you very much, guys. Okay, the judging is now open for Team 5. Feel free to add your that. Our next team will be GeoHacker. Ready? I broke out. I'll give these guys 40 minutes. 48 hours.
Was your zero set?
Ready?
Ready.
Go.
All right, everyone. So we're here today to kind of put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. For some time now, we've been talking about a place where we can take geoscience data and put it online in a ready-to-use form for machine learning. Okay. So in 2016, as many of you here are aware, I wrote a FACES classification example article in the leading edge, and it had a simple well log suite and showed how to use it and how to get going. And it was really popular. We had a contest, Software Underground really got kicking then, and it really brought us all together. I started going to hackathons, and it was great. Trouble is, there's not a whole lot of data sets out there like that. So a team just before here coming to a hackathon has to spend on these things just to get going. So what we want to do is look at some data sets and create a place where people can go and find these, see what's been done, and get going really quickly. So to that end, we spent our time here looking into a couple data sets, cleaning them up for some machine learning examples, and prepping them and putting them online. So what I worked on was, we worked on the Poseidon data set, and a data set from the UK that Malcolm's going to explain. Poseidon data set has a lot of seismic data, also has a lot of well logs and petrophysical data. So I've shown you an example here on the screen of one of the wells. We have white light core photographs, UV photos, CT scans, plug photographs. We have thin sections, as well as, routine core analysis results, petrography, telenology. I'd even look that one up. I didn't know what it was. Cuttings and all of this kind of stuff, and all kinds of weird formats. So we started to tear into this to see what we could do. So I worked a lot with the core images. The results are shown here. So I went into all of those image files and PDFs, cut out all of the images for one of the entire wells, and put them together into a data set where we could start to do some machine learning. And so shown here are the white light and UV core photographs. And so I used a hybrid convolutional neural network random forest classifier to identify locations where plugs have been taken out of those images. And so you can kind of see the classification results there, the areas it's found where it thinks is a plug being taken from. So I've only trained it on the circular sort of sidewall plugs, not the end caps. And so as I scroll down here, you can see that it's all this data has been prepared, and showing the CT alongside here, because now that you found the plug locations, you could go back to the CT scans and get a sampling of the CT data there to use for various upscaling purposes. In addition to the well log data, we also looked at the seismic data. So to do AVO and sparse by conversions and so on, you need this, the right seismic data and the right well logs in the right place. So Ben looked at organizing this, also using a convolutional neural network to extract deep features from this, which is what the data set is shown here. Malcolm's going to talk about the UK data set.
Hi there, my name is Malcolm, and I'm a geologist. That's the first admission I've got to make. So this machine learning stuff to me is very new. So I had to work out how I could contribute here. So one of the things that I've got is a lot of data as a geologist, and I've got a lot of knowledge of what that data could be used for and how it should look. So what I've tried to do is take a an open data set that we've got that's very messy. And I've tried to clean it up in a way that I understand as a geologist and present it in a way that can then be accessed by people that do understand machine learning, and they can then go away and work with it, push it back, and that can allow me to learn a little bit about how machine learning for the industry, and it also works the other way, and it helps give some of that domain knowledge back to people doing machine learning. Thank you very much.
So did you look at detecting other types of core features, like fractures or other, maybe some type of broken core or something else?
So we didn't do that. We just looked at core plugs because they were there and somewhat semi-obvious. But this is all online now. That clean data set is there with the notebooks that show how to access it, how to load it up, how to spin through it in a pipeline in machine learning. So yes, that's imminently possible now that you have CT, UV, and the white light all aligned. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that you've approached dealing with some of the really brutally painful data management projects? Your contention develop higher value necessary.
That's right. I wanted to create a tool that we wanted to create a platform where people could show up to a hackathon, for example, or on their own time and say, you know what, I want to hack on the Poseidon data set. And, you know, it's kind of ready to go for machine learning. If I grab this packet of wells that's been aligned and these tops and so on. And so maybe you want to do some image analysis and I want to design a fracture detector. Well, you know, here's this well that's already been cleaned and, you know, I've separated out the Core Labs logos from these images and color bars and so on. And I just got the data and I can.
I think if I can add as well from my perspective, coming from the geological side of things, the opportunity there for managing the data is a way that it integrates the domain knowledge a little bit into it as well. And again, that you know, allows me to learn a little bit as well as teach at the same time.
Yeah, I have almost I'm interested in your feedback. I think you've identified actually a really thorny problem, which is, you know, how do you get people working on some standard problems? Might be a data sharing, data discovery, data kind of credibility issue. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is that, or interested in, is the platform idea. Is that many different organizations, whether they're governments or small organizations or oil companies, have these data sets.
Right.
And they have a certain amount of energy to clean them up and a certain amount of willingness to make them working. But that is a very diverse amount of resources to actually put to that. And I have wondered if the right approach is not so much to create, you know, like the one spot where people can find them, but to actually create a protocol or a server protocol that people could compare their data towards, and then they could each run their own data server clients. That, you know, almost, you know what I'm
I know, I agree with you completely.
I'm just curious, like, what design?
Yeah, I don't.
The problem you're trying to solve, as opposed to, like, I mean, I understand you've taken 2 data sets forward.
That's
this
right.
weekend, which is wonderful, but I'm just curious what the real problem is. What's that platform?
Yeah, so I have 2 answers to that. I know what it's not. And it's not the government databases where you go in and it shows you a text form to say, type in what you want. And then it spits out this long list of data that is kind of all over the place. And maybe you have to order a disk and it's in all these weird formats, or now you got to write a text parser to look through all this stuff and extract what you want. And that takes forever. That doesn't get anybody going working on the problems they want to work on. So discoverability is a big thing. When I go to the Geoscience Australia website to look up this stuff, unless I know it's in the browse basin, it's really hard to find that. 2, the machine learning article tutorial in 2016 in the contest that Agile and we ran together was amazingly effective. And that was in a GitHub repo with just some, the notebook was there to show how to use it. Go, can you do better? That was effective. So it doesn't have to be a centralized platform. So we have a GitHub repo. This data and our projects are in there. You can access that and get going. And I think that perhaps, you know, something like the UCI website that has machine learning examples in there can point out to various places where people have done these things before. So That's a possibility. But you're right. I don't think that there's one protocol that's going to solve everybody's problems. But this is a small step in that direction. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, judging is open for Team 6. Okay, we've had the unconformist already, haven't we?
Yes.
Well, if they come up, we'll move them. Okay, Petrodix, you guys are up. You've got a computer.
Yeah.
Just a reminder.
Yes. You bought a cluster?
Yeah. Okay. Afternoon, we're going to be talking a little bit about our project. We actually put together an intelligent cloud-based petrophysical lithology detection or prediction tool. We actually went in and as the user interface, you would actually upload a triple combo log. Petrodict would then do that, go through that, and then provide back to you that log with fractional lithology logs back to you. So we went through and we pulled down a bunch of, or we pulled in a bunch of logs from downhole ECS logs, went through, cleaned that stuff up, did some testing on that, trained a model, did some optimization, and then packaged it all up for you guys. We ended up settling in after that testing with the random forest model. And currently we're running, in comparison with an actual downhole tool, we're running at about 86% accuracy as it stands with the current training data set. We're actually going to hot swap here real quick and do a demo for you guys. So actually go in, we'll pull her up, you'll pick your triple combo log, submit it on the tool, she'll chooch for a bit, and then you can pull up your results and we'll be adding in so you can download this as well. And then you can actually view your log, the lithology, the fractional lithology log on the website itself. So, release it tomorrow.
Yeah. So, if you guys have any questions?
$30 million for 10% income? I have a question.
Yeah.
What's holding? What's going to improve that?
Well, we go through, see the whole list of tests. Those are the one that kind of how to go the model.
Another one to add on accuracy is actually, so we use logs out of Colorado only because that's the ones I have available. So expanding my scraping in order to get a bigger training data set so it works in other areas and other basins. So
So if I take a brand new data set and I apply this tool, does it apply all those different machine learning methodologies and then optimizes hyperparameters and it's the one for me, or what am I doing?
Not yet. We need some more capital to deploy that.
Right now we basically top model.
Thank you.
Kind of a related question. Noticed it looks like we're training into the. Could you go back to that section on that? Or if it's on the other laptop.
It's on the other laptop.
Like, what were the top three methods? What were your top three?
So we kind of do two different routes because we have multiple output variables. We predict like four different curves. So we initially go out and do one at a time and picking the top model for each one of them. And then we're like, man, this is a lot of work, you know. And then at the end, you have to make a lot of prediction and put together a data set. So we exploring the multi-output model, and which is the random forest supported. So we kind of run through the one time and then spit out all of the output. So we settle on that, even though the accuracy is a little bit less instead of the individual.
Okay. Okay, the judging is open for Team 7 now. So I think there can only be one outcome of this. It's either the team that have gone home already or Size Miser. I'm hoping Size Miser are going to win, but that was awkward. I'll try spinning the wheel one more time. Will they win? Yes. Size Miser, your time has come.
Make sure you're close to the mic. You're speaking into it.
We're ready to start. Right. Good evening, everyone. So project is Size Miser, and we all are like college undergraduate students. We are here for this hackathon. We really don't have like geoscience domain. But our objective was to study and analyze and use earthquake wastewater injection data, and then use machine learning and data analytics to predict where an induced seismic event would be likely to occur from the given fault data and the injection well data. And induced earthquakes, as all you guys know, it's because of the human activities, such as water-based disposal through well injection, which is the main reason behind the earthquakes. That is like 90%. And the major event occurring is in Oklahoma State. The main reason behind with induced earthquake is the wastewater injection. And from here.
Okay, so we used a few data sets. We used some earthquakes from 2010 to 2016. We got it from the USGS website. And we used the wastewater injection data, which I'm not exactly sure where we got that because one of them got it. And then a fault map that we found from the Oklahoma Geological Survey.
So we did some pre-processing on the well and earthquake data so that we could create some data that we could actually use to train the network. And to do this, we used like a simple filtering mechanism to filter out some of the wells that obviously did not influence the seismic event. And then we used like a simple heuristic to choose which well we think was most likely to have caused the event. And like it's explained here, but I don't really need to go into it. And then we planned, but we're not able to implement in the given time constraints to train a deep neural net with the given fault line data, well data, and quake magnitude as inputs and quake location as an output, and thus giving a model to predict where a quake of a given magnitude caused by given well data and local fault data would occur. So here's just like a little bit of a diagram to kind of explain the heuristic. So from the knowledge that I was taught yesterday by some of you guys, the main influencing factor is that the pressure from the well injection travels along the fault lines, causing the events. And so we wanted to measure the angle, like the offset from the fault line. The farther offset it is from the fault line, the less likely it is that the pressure could actually travel down and cause an event. So we like measured the distance and measured the angle and weighted the angle more heavily because, of course, if it's not aligned at all, it's almost impossible to causing an event. And we think that a model such as this could be adapted to predict the possible dangers of well placement and operation to nearby urban areas, allowing industry to test where induced quakes of different magnitudes might occur given planned well placement and operation. We kind of like way overestimated the availability of data since we have no geoscience background, and that was a big constraint to us. Yeah, we were also unable to find focal mechanism data for the quakes, which would have been really nice because that would have helped characterize the events better than just the magnitude and location. Yeah, that's about it.
So an interesting part of this problem is timing. Often you can inject and then there's a time lag before you actually have it. Do anything to account for the temporal?
Well, in the heuristic that we were using to decide, where is it? You can see like this volumetric flow parameter right here in the division. We actually did the volumetric flow for the last 3 months. I was not aware that there was like a time lag. I don't know how long the time lag is likely to be, but I guess we could have adjusted that for distance and the time. But we only took the last 2 months of volumetric flow because we know that if there was no flow, then there's probably no impact.
Estimating stuff. So the access to data challenge, which is one we do every day of the week, does the data exist and you just haven't been able to kind of randomly identify, find it?
A lot of the data is held by industry and is not publicly available. That's most of it actually. Most of it's just it's locked behind industry like paywall basically. But a lot of it does exist and it's hard to process and it's in odd formats and they're not consistent, like you said. But I think most of it is just that the data does exist, but industry is holding on to it.
I know about the Oklahoma timeline, the actual migration of water away from its actual injection. Identified as one of the issues is that moving through space in time, so that there wasn't an obvious correlation, easy spatial correlation as a general rule. And also, another area that I know they've done some research on earthquakes, so there's other reasons besides just the induced from water injection. But I'm guessing that your tool, you just targeted water injection as a problem.
We targeted water injection because from what we read, it seemed like that was the main factor that everyone else was focusing on. And having no background, we had no way to know what else to tackle. Thank you for your question.
Now, did we miss any teams? Is there anybody sitting there going, hang on a minute, let me, no. Thank you very much. Okay, so I've moved the scoring on to Team 8, so please feel free to put your votes in for Team 8. This is the moment where the judges are going to disappear off. We're going to cogitate and contemplate and evaluate the different entries. That means it's your chance to grab a beer, relax. I will just say, everybody, I'm always blown away by what can be achieved in 2 days. So really, good job. And for those people who in their minds are thinking they want to carry on and pursue some of these things, one shout I'm going to give you is we're currently running an AI challenge. It's a global contest for people who want to develop applications of AI-related technology. And I'm the energy CTO, so I'm very keen for lots of energy entries to go into the competition. The thing I'll say about it is this, there are 2 reasons why participating could be cool. One is you'll get access to a gigantic deep learning supercomputer. Over in our Round Rock HQ, we have a couple of the largest supercomputers on the planet. We're providing access to those to the finalists of the competition. Secondly, if you're one of the winners, then you could either get, I think, 200,000 core hours on our big supercomputer, or if it's an energy-specific entry that has possibility, then we're actually going to support the winners by commercializing and building a go-to-market for the ultimate solution. So just a quick shout out, just Google Dell EMC AI Challenge, ping me on Slack if you've got any questions. Entries close at the end of May. We do ask people to submit a video, but it is completely optional. You don't have to put a video in, just a 1-page abstract saying, I've got a crazy idea, we want to do a thing, to a giant supercomputer so I could see if it would ever actually work. Okay, so on that happy note, grab a beer. I'm going to grab the judges. We're going to go and cogitate and contemplate, and we will be back to you as soon as we can. Okay.
Hey, Matt. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can. I was afraid to say anything in case my voice came out. Strange places.
Yeah, man. We are still broadcasting live. So we're just waiting for the judges now. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the combined Undersampled Radio episode 79 and the Subsurface Hackathon presentations. I think we had a pretty awesome showing from the teams today. I especially liked the web app. So what's happening for you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been fun getting to see these. You and I have just been chatting a bit online about how to make the live stream a better experience for everybody. But yeah, it's really cool to see the event unfolding and see some of the results.
Indeed.
Seems like the. Go on, then.
Yep, sorry about the echo. Let me just try to fix that by doing this. Okay, how's that? A little better?
Maybe a little better. Yeah, I'm just downgrading my internet a little bit.
I see what's happening. Evan's computer is broadcasting to the mic. I'm gonna have to kill my feed. So we're gonna stay live and just wait for the judges.
All right. See you then. I don't know. I don't know if he's coming back or not, or if it's just me. I'm not actually in Salt Lake City, so there's not a lot I can add. I know I'm live. I'm just trying to be professional, Graham. Treat it like an actual broadcast, just in case there are any listeners. Maybe you can tell me if there are any listeners or not from your end. I know you can see how many people are watching. But yeah, I don't think he's going to do that. So I will probably just tune out myself, and we can wait for the judges. Usually takes 20 to 30 minutes for the judges to mull over their decision. All right, so bye everyone. I'll talk to you later, maybe if I get a chance with Graham. Or maybe we'll just see if he comes back. I don't know. He probably wants to hang out with everybody in the actual hackathon. He may actually be back. It's a bit hard to tell what he's going to do next. I like the party view. I think that's good. Maybe you're not back. Well, maybe we could just leave the feed on so that it sounds like there's stuff going on. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Well, I enjoyed our little chat, which wasn't awkward at all. And I don't think he can even hear me. Let's have his sound turned down. Okay, fine.
Outrageous.
Hey, is there an Andrew Locke? Is there an Andrew Locke? Andrew Locke. Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. You turn the volume up again.
Yes, I did turn the volume off. I need to go plug this.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you can take your seats, please. The judges have completed their contemplations. And we're ready to give out some possibly awesome prizes, depending on your perspective. So before we start, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to the guys from Agile Geoscience.
Yes.
They have an almost unnatural passion for running these community events. And I can assure you they don't do it because this is what's buying their jets and their luxury holidays in Hawaii. They do it because they're passionate about it, they believe in it, they believe in developing the community. I think what they do, it's hard to communicate the level of organization and running around that's involved in putting an event like this together. So Evan, Diego, Matt, who's not here but has contributed in his own unique way. Thank you very much, guys. It's been amazing. There are a bunch of other volunteers like Graham, who's always running around, contributing, working hard at these events. And there are other people who I'm sure I'll forget to mention, but to everyone who helped make these events what they are, I say thank you very much. And without further ado, we will get on with the judging. So I'm going to invite, by the way, I've got to give the other judges an opportunity to introduce themselves. So as they come up, they'll have a chance to say the names. But I'm going to invite Michael to come up and give the Societal Impact Award.
Thank you very much, David. Just to introduce myself, I am Michael Perch. I'm a professor at University of Texas, Hildebrand Petroleum and Geosystems Engineering. My pleasure to be here. I'm Geostats Guy on Twitter, if anybody wants to follow me. Being a fake monkey there. So basically, we thought that was very important to recognize the fact that machine learning has an important impact on society, that it has a great opportunity to add value. And so we wanted to give an award for societal impact. And when we think about the energy industry and machine learning, we realize that the induced seismicity problem is one that impacts our very social license to practice. It can be the difference between a future and not having a future in energy. So with no further ado, we wanted to give that to Seismizer. And so what we have for you here are these really cool digital microscopes with flexible necks. So you're able to plug this up to your computer, be able to use this as a microscope. Please come around, we'll get a picture together, right? We can get a picture together.
Allow me, please do that.
Snapchat video. All right, thank you.
There's only 3 of you.
I get the fun job of presenting the award for commercializability, mostly because I was the only judge who could pronounce that. Whenever you look at these projects, I'm always blown away by what people manage to put together in just a couple of days of hacking. But there was one project in particular that everybody seemed to agree had great commercial opportunity. And so, without further ado, I'd like to invite the unconformists, up to receive the award for commercializability. And we have, so checking his list. So in the interest of extending, I've got the wrong box. Brilliant. Oh, the box is in front of me. Take them out to the box for me. Okay. In the interest of extending the your supercomputing capabilities, we have these fabulous neural compute sticks. This is like a miniature version of the supercomputer I bought with me. So there you go. I did have some fun with that. Fourth one will be great. So, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. Okay, I'm now going to invite Fraser up. He's going to give the Teamwork Award.
So I just to introduce myself, my name is Fraser Kepi. I have a fairly convoluted background in academics and industry, but I'm a structural geologist and a computer programmer, and I'm from Nova Scotia, so I actually met Matt through family connections. He lives in Mahone Bay, where some of my in-laws live, and then I became a client actually of Agile to do some of the computing tasks that we have in our government organization to process data. So it's a real privilege to finally be at one of these hackathons, even if I don't get to be a participant, which hopefully I will get to do another time. But it's been a real pleasure to see all the projects and the work you guys did over the weekend. The award for teamwork, we're going to give to Outcrops Gee Whiz. We thought they had a really nice presentation that showed involvement from all four members. And we're giving out what I believe is an Arduino kit. It's an Internet of Things kit. And we were thinking that as one of the prizes, potentially they can actually go up on the drones. And so.
Bit closer, yeah. Smile, Diego. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so I'm also going to present our fourth and final award, which we've named for execution. We might also have given it for presentation. I think there was a little mic drop in the middle of their presentation. But so for execution, in terms of the problem definition and what it appeared they were able to deliver over the course of the weekend, the prize goes to Petrodit.
These are which are these again?
Okay, yeah. So the prize is cameras that you can connect to your computer and do machine learning on the pictures you're taking, sort of in real time.
Can we come in a little bit tighter, a little bit more friendly? Okay. Like you spend all weekend together in that warm, sweaty room. All right, thank you guys. Thank you. And I just have one very quick announcement before I thank you all very much for being here with us. And that is, if you're around on Wednesday afternoon, please come to the Machine Learning session and tell all the others about it. There's a couple people in this room who are hosting it, and we'll all be there. So it's not going to be like sitting in a room with a bunch of PowerPoint talks. It's going to be the opposite of that. 12 or more conversations going on. And we're going to try to continue having conversations around this, the theme of machine learning and how we can bring more of these emerging technologies into this domain. So yeah, please tell all your friends about it, and we'll be handing out posters and little flyers about it over the course of the convention. So I think it's in room 251B, Wednesday afternoon. And lastly, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate that the courage that and maybe the commitment that you guys have shown to come out and do something new. And it's a really rewarding experience to connect with folks like you. So thanks very much for everyone for all your hard work. Like I think, I'm amazed at all the things that everyone is able to achieve. Basically, a lot of people went from like 0 to deep learning in 37 hours or something like that, right? So let's give us all, yourselves, a big round of applause. And, according to my clock, it's 2 minutes before the icebreaker starts. So we're on time. And you're welcome to stick around and hang out. There's beer. I'm going to slowly be tidying up. I'll turn the music back on. We can stay as late as Skylar's patience and he wants to kick us out of here. But if you're going to the icebreaker convention, we'll see you there. If not, we'll see you next time. And see you on Slack, I guess. Okay, take care. Bye.